I'm sure you have lots and lots and lots of people calling on you every day, telling you that they can help you get to the top of this mountain. And one of the things, if you think through that mountain metaphor, one of the ways that I would encourage you to think about evaluating who those people are and what they tell you, and who are you going to allow to be your Sherpa to help you get to the top of that mountain, is really think about what a Sherpa is. And you probably think, oh, I know what a Sherpa is. They're those guys that help other people climb Everest. And that's what they do. But what's interesting about a Sherpa to me is not what they do, but what they are. Sherpa is an ethnic group of people who have existed in the Himalaya, raised at elevations above 15,000 feet for tens of thousands of years. As a result, their bodies have adapted. To use a fancy scientific term, they process hemoglobin differently than your bodies and mine do, which essentially at the end of the day means they can stand at the top of Everest and they can breathe. Okay, so what? Everest is 29,000 feet high. The summit is higher than the cruising altitude of the Airbus A300 to be sitting on, flying into Kathmandu if you were going to go try to climb Everest. You know at some level what would happen to you if the cabin of that Airbus depressurized. But your Sherpa would be sitting next to you playing Angry Birds on his iPad and really wouldn't care. And as a result, can breathe at the top of that summit. And we're not going to talk to you about actually climbing mountains, but when you think metaphorically about who's going to help you get to the top of this mountain, one of the first questions you want to ask yourself is, does this person who's saying they can help me, have they been there and can they breathe at that altitude themselves? And I'm not going to tell you a whole bunch of stuff about my backstory and why I'm talking to you, or about Troy's, because you can Google it, and Google knows everything. But a couple little nuggets just sort of to illustrate the point. I was raised in the Silicon Valley of California from a time before they called it that. My father worked in the IBM research labs dating back to the 60s. My mother, I believe, I'm still trying to prove this, it's harder than you would think, I believe was the first woman ever to get a master's degree in computer science in the state of New York, ever, period. All that really means is I grew up surrounded by these things, to the degree that the last story I'll tell about me, because you really care more about you, is when I was 11, the end of, I guess it was 6th grade, 7th grade, come home at the end of June, I want to spend the summer playing baseball. My dad brings me in this big giant box. Anybody in this room remember an IBM PC Junior computer? I mean, this thing has all the processing power of a clicker, but what he basically said was, here's the good news. This summer you don't have to mow the lawn, you don't have to wash the car, you don't have to babysit your sister, you don't have to do the dishes, but here's what you have to do. You're going to take this computer, you're going to learn how to use it, and you're going to use it to write a program to teach your little sister, I have a little sister who's 4 years younger than me, how to do multiplication tables. Took me all summer long, but I did it. I got all the way up to 12 times 12. Took 12 floppy disks actually to store the program, but seriously, the big 5-inch floppies, but it worked. You'll hear more from Troy later, a graduate of the Stanford Journalism School, among other things, went to the National Institutes of Health, a bunch of highly regulated cancer researchers, and taught them how to use social media. As Scott mentioned earlier, we are truly native to this, and this is the only thing we know how to do. So as we talk to you about this for the next half an hour, think about it. We're not smarter than you, we're not better than you, we don't work harder than you. It's simply, this is the only thing we've ever done, and we're just lucky enough that what we do is in demand. And I would argue that for you guys to think that you know how to do the things we're going to talk about up here without some significant help is kind of like us thinking we could go back and do your job. And I know that's pretty preposterous, because I sure couldn't figure out what any of you guys do. So what does this mean for your business? The good news is, I've spent 10 minutes making it sound hard. Now I'll spend 2 minutes making it sound really easy. All it really boils down to is, can you be found? You sell spatulas. I type in spatulas in Google. Do I find you? I don't know, that's pretty simple, right? When I find you, do you like what I find? Is the content about your business, both the content that you created and the content that other people created, is it content that you like? Is it consistent? Is it accurate? Is it positive? I don't know. Can you distribute that content to the places where people are, in social media and in their inbox? As great as that content might be on your website, doesn't matter if nobody sees it. And then once you have that great content out there, you've distributed it successfully, do you know how to turn that into the things that you want? Leads. Does that result in people calling you, walking into your store, filling out forms, requesting appointments, whatever it might be? Sounds simple, right? Well, great. Google to you is a white box on a screen, and you type words into it and more words show up. Seems pretty easy. This is what Google actually looks like, or this is actually a gross simplification of what Google looks like in terms of how it works. There was a day way back in the primordial ooze of the internet, I don't know, 2009, when all Google had to go on When I typed in spatulas lacrosse to determine if your website for your spatula store was going to come up for my query, the only thing they had to go on were the words embedded in your website. And this whole industry called search engine optimization came to dominate the space. And amazingly, some people are probably out there still trying to sell you these things today. But in today's world, there are hundreds and hundreds of online directories that Google can turn to find out what your business is, where it is, what you do, and what people think about you. And if your business isn't listed accurately in all of those directories, that's a very, very bad thing for your business. And as we'll talk about later, they make that challenging for you. Google also takes what are called signals, which are, it wants to know in evaluating your business as to whether it's a relevant response for a query. What are other people saying about your business? Are people giving you positive ratings and reviews? Are they talking about you in social media? Are there signals to Google out there on the internet that your website is relevant? If you're not generating those signals, or if you are and they're bad, also not a particularly good thing. There are other search engines, but really Google is the one that matters. Have over 80% market share in the US. And sort of like Fight Club, I hope you guys have seen that movie. The first law of being successful on the internet is Google loves Google. And we'll come back to that over and over again. So it starts, the success of being found on the internet starts with a little website called Google+. How many people in this room care about it, think about it, use it, know anything about Google+? I got a few hands, that's good. Google+ is the most important website that exists or ever has existed on the internet for your business. What? Yes. It was launched in 2007. The internet community thought that Google was trying to compete with Facebook to create yet another platform for cat videos and pictures of your food. But that really isn't what they wanted to do at all. What they realized was that sites like Facebook and Twitter we're generating tremendous amount of useful data about what people do and what they like and what businesses they interact with. And they said, we kind of want some of that. So they made one. And really all a Google Plus page looks like, it's pretty boring, right? This is one for an eye doctor down in Madison. Looks like a directory listing, a picture of the eye doctors, their name, their address, their phone number, when they're open, what they do, how to get there, snore, right? It's like a yellow page. But this is the Bible to Google. Because of the other hundreds of places that your business shows up online, if the information about your business doesn't match what's in Google+, you get penalized because Google loves Google. And the information in Google+ is the most important information on the web about your business. So if you have one takeaway from this, go home tonight, claim your Google+ page and give it a lot of love because it's really, really important. Another thing that, well, I'll show you the results of that because if you do this nicely, you can generate this, which is sort of the holy grail, right? You're all over the search results page. It's hard not to succeed when you look like that. Another thing that people don't often think about in terms of being found are AdWords or paid search. How many folks in the room do this today? Pay money directly to Google to show up on searches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Most of you say no. Fair enough, because you think, well, I can get my website to show up on the first page of Google results for free, right? So why would I pay for it? Well, we'll go through a number of reasons, but perhaps one of the most important ones is go back tonight and look at the screen real estate of a Google search. 75 to 90% of the screen real estate is taken up by ads. Google is in the business of giving you the most relevant possible responses, and they fill the page with 80% ads. Think about that for a second. What does that mean? What it means is consumers don't care. They don't perceive the difference, and when they do, in study after study, they tell us that they actually are more likely to click on the ads because they trust that result, because they know that business has paid to be there. But even more importantly than that, what happens when people click on your AdWords? You're providing a powerful signal to Google that your business is relevant for that particular query. Google looks at a lot of these signals that are generally referred to as the wisdom of the crowd, and Yelp reviews and Facebook posts and lots of other things are important, but that Fight Club rule again, Google loves Google. If people teach Google directly by clicking on your AdWords that your business is a relevant result for that query, AdWords buying these things can actually be the most effective way that you can get your business nearer to the top of a page of Google search results organically. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's true. These are just a couple of the sort of ideas of being found. We'll show you some examples in a bit. But like I said, it's not just about being found. Once somebody finds you, what do they find? And for that, I'm going to turn it over to Troy.